I am a senior scientist from Lockheed Martin. I have been a senior research engineer for Howard Hughes, Texas Instruments. Nevertheless, we've been working for some time now in order to determine where the next energy levels are going to come from. Now by that I mean we aren't talking about wind or solar or even atomic. We have other formats of energy that we've theoretically proven that are available. Not only that, but there have been significant developments, and many times the things that we look at and call UFOs are really some of the developments that we've been involved with.
That Lockheed has been involved with?
That were open. Looks pretty good to us down.
So are these some of the UFOs we're seeing you believe are ours, that are United States military?
Well, Area 51 is literally where the majority of the things that we call the black program were developed, and many times sightings would occur directly associated with them.
So you had a number of sightings, and then that prompted you to go to Area 51.
A lot of people are doing nothing more than getting huge quantities of mass and see if they can get a gravity wave to cause things to move. Well, that isn't what we're talking about at all. So I wondered if gravity could be related to its cousin magnetism. And so I found that when I take two magnets together, I have some neodymiums around here that I'm actually afraid of.
They're so strong.
They can danger you. But anyhow, you take a magnet, you go to put them together and they go clunk, right? But you take one of them, move it around, and all of a sudden it doesn't want to go together.
The repulsive.
So I ordered one at $5,000 a piece, with a 1/4-inch hole through between both of them, and I put a brass bolt and I tightened them down, forcing them together. And then I put them together in a thing that looks kind of like a rock. Okay, and then I got another one that didn't have magnets in it. And Galileo, in all his endeavors, he went up to the Leaning Tower of Pisa
And
he dropped a big rock and a small rock. And his buddy down at the bottom kept telling him that the large rock and the small rock arrived at the same time.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather for our falcon. And I'll drop the two of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that? It proves that Mr. Galileo was correct in his findings.
Well, I went up to in the Lockheed Building 501 by the side of escalators and elevators.
Oh, wow.
And I got 9 guys that were not educated and didn't have pre-opinions on anything. And I dropped my 2 rocks. And I said, what I would like you to do is, I told them what I'd like you to do is I would like you to take whichever one arrives first, get it in your hand, and when I come down the elevator, hand it to me. Now, they looked identical, except for...
And nobody knew what was inside?
No, absolutely not. All the 9 times that I tested it, it's as though the one with the opposing magnet field extending out 3 feet on each side I actually measured
How big
far-
the field is.
How big the field was, and on each side of a rock, of one rock, I had a total of 6 feet. At any rate, the other rock arrived first.
Which one arrived first?
The one that had no magnetic field in it.
So you were able to cancel out gravity to a certain degree. You
How
were
do you
able
like
to
that?
cancel,
Precisely.
reduce the mass gravity effect
Precisely.
by
Okay.
by opposing fields.
Isn't that nice? You bet. And got 9 signatures and I always get,
You did that at Lockheed. What year
certainly.
was this?
At least 8 years ago.
This is the actual document of Boyd's where he proved that by altering the field in a falling body, the magnetic field, it reduced its mass gravity equivalent and canceled out the effects of gravity to a certain percentage. And he did a building 500 drop test conducted from a height of 59 feet. The location is in White Solomon, Texas, and the time was 12:20 p.m. And this was in 1995, December 12th. Nobody knows this.
I know it.
So
This-
gravity, mass gravity is not. You can alter it. In other words.
gravity within itself has to have. Gravity goes through anything that is solid and anything like iron or anything else. But it has to have a magnetic component, which may be canceling out within itself. But as soon as it got around my rock, it all of a sudden recognized the presence
But somebody,
of my rock.
one of Einstein's students tried to merge electromagnetism and gravity, and he rejected it. But he didn't have an experiment like you did.
No, I understand. I know that.
Yeah.
But see, nature never uses English. It doesn't speak. It doesn't speak any language. But yet it's talking to us all the time.
Right.
And the key thing is to identify what it's saying.
Does Lockheed Martin or does anybody possess working anti-gravity technology right now? Or are we still trying to understand how these ET craft are working? Have we reverse engineered the technology at Roswell successfully? Which would mean some of the UFOs we're seeing now that are silent and hovering.
I've given you the Lazar tapes. And that's as far as I can talk.
Okay. That's good.
It's only because I got the Lazar tapes from a White World forum.
Right.
And
But you can't say anymore.
Well, people kept encroaching on Area 51, such that Area 51 is now being moved to Tooele, Utah.
But here's one thing. This makes sense to me. If you can cancel out gravity in a falling body, and you can even reduce a percentage of the effects of gravity for aircraft, it would take less fuel. They would be more efficient, and they could hover with less energy, and that much I can figure out.
And the atmospheric edge of the Earth will be meaningless. Would you like to see a picture of the nuclear-powered aircraft?
Oh, What's the date on this one?
I refuse to say, but there is the nuclear pile that actually flew.
That hunk of junk right there flew?
It actually was in the belly, providing.
Oh, that was in the belly of that.
That's right. It's just like in the belly of a submarine.
Providing anti-gravity. So it's shaped like an aircraft.
Well,
It's aerodynamic. So that we don't think that it's not using its wings.
well, but,
I get it.
It has an energy source, okay?
I understand.
And it is staying in the and here's what what it looked like down inside of the protective. It was.
And that's at Area 51?
No, much closer than we'd care to admit.
Oh, Texas. Well, I mean, Lockheed's the contracts here was in the paper this morning. $27 billion in the last couple of years. Most of the majority of the defense contracts are here in Texas with Lockheed. I mean,
Well,
that's
certainly.
pretty much-
No.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mind having a retirement from them. And here was one of the old-time developments.
Oh.
Now, I happen to know the guy who put that together.
How far does this date back? March No, Mach 1.2.
I know it doesn't say, but in actuality, it's way, way back. The first,
Really?
we must be at least 30 to 40 years.
60s? After the Roswell crash, in the first week of July of 1947, it is alleged that the alien bodies in the craft are taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. That's where the alien bodies in the craft were taken. What Boyd Bushman is holding up is a document that states that a reverse-engineered nuclear-powered flying saucer that has a ceiling of over 60,000 feet, a range of 3,000 miles, nuclear-powered anti-gravity saucer that we reverse-engineered from the alien craft, and he knows who did it. He's testifying. Boyd Bushman is the man who designed the Stinger missile for General Dynamics. He worked for Howard Hughes. He worked for 20 years. He was at Lockheed Martin. He had access to above top secret and top secret files. He knows how to develop and reverse engineer anti-gravity technology and is actually demonstrating it in front of us. And here we are for the first time in history. He is showing us proof that at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, we reverse engineered flying saucer technology. In 1959 was the first date this thing flew. I mean, this is incredible. He's giving us what no one has ever been able to find before. And, he won't say, that it was an alien craft, obviously. I mean, it could have been something that was ours. But if we have anti-gravity, if we've developed anti-gravity at Lockheed or, any level, secret level of the Black Ops, divisions of research, why aren't we using it in the war? Why doesn't the F-117 levitate? Or does the F-117 levitate?
Well, the key question from a physics point of view is a matter of another force.
Mm-hmm.
The question is are there more forces beyond the 4 or 5 forces that we're all acquainted with?
Mm-hmm.
The strong force, that's holding
the strong force, I understand that.
The strong force and weak force, electromagnetic force, and gravity. Well, we have been under some development recently where the astronomers have begun to analyze the motion of galaxies apart.
Right.
And we have identified that indeed the galaxies are being impelled apart. Mm-hmm. We used to say at increasing velocities. The recent data and the better data says that there's still a repulsing force. Well, a repulsing force is an anti-gravity.
It's stronger than gravity.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Newton says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Well, okay. If that's true, then I don't know. Don't let me get this thing lost, but if I let this fall on this carpet, mm-hmm. if I had concrete, if its elasticity mm-hmm. was the same, then the best that it could do would be to come back to the same height that I drop it from, right?
Right.
And if it came out higher than that, then I would have violated Newton's law of equal and opposites, right? Okay, I need your hand. This is a standard tube, and you're going to catch these. These are magnets. Mm-hmm. Okay, now do notice that this is copper. Mm-hmm. It does not care about copper at all. It is not like iron. This one just
straight through,
right on
less
through.
than a second.
And this one,
1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,004 seconds.
No, that's true. So now,
so you're canceling out gravity.
Well, by something that cares little about magnetism.
The two opposing forces in here.
It's a matter of what is the aluminum doing. Why does it care about moving electrons? I find that were Sir Isaac Newton to be alive after Einstein, rather than the reverse.
Right.
Isaac Newton had a form of mathematics called the binomial expansion, where basically you can take anything that's mathematic, your sines, cosines, even the definition of pi, and you can put them in an expansion format. Mm-hmm. And if you add them all up, you get the correct definition of pi or sign and everything else. But it's usually meant for binomial expansion. If you really take Einstein's equation, it is a binomial. It is a binomial expression.
Right.
It's
Mass and energy are equivalent.
if you do nothing more than shove that into Newton's series expansion, you will, and you multiply it like Einstein did, by m0c squared. You multiply every one of the series expansion by that. Mystically, the first term, which is 1, when it's multiplied times m0c squared, is the large force. The second one turns out to be kinetic energy. I mean, 1/2 mv squared, not c squared, because Einstein had v, and the c's cancel. It goes on ahead and basically shows that there are as many as 7 significant forces.
Really?
And the first, if you can include the kinetic energy, it turns out to be the first 5 we know.
Right.
The
5.
6th, 7th, and 8th we don't know.
Right. So you're saying...
But we're taking the expression associated with the binomial expansion and taking a look at it. And it looks like that indeed there are, we believe that anti-gravity is there, that it's one of them.
It's one of the forces, one of the...
But we have forces that are yet to be named. Up here, a picture of there's a rock up there. Next.
Yeah, I see that.
Well, that actually came whizzing past between the moon and the Earth about 5 years ago. It's going to come back again in 2029. Yeah, 2029, and then it will come back and just between the Earth and Moon, and it will come back the next time in 2036.
Though the
and
orbit is
actually,
decaying.
it will collide someplace between Siberia and Africa, and it will be a huge impact. Many megatons.
Bigger than Tunguska?
Don't know.
How big is that thing?
It depends on its velocity, but it's there. We know it. We're tracking it.
Oh my God.
And I said, and number 6, veer its orbit. No, because I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that it floated above the aluminum. I mean, something mystical inside the aluminum was doing something like happened inside of copper.
You can't run current through aluminum like a wire.
Yeah.
And traditionally it said it's non-conductive, but actually you're saying it is conductive.
Well, something occurred. Actually, what's happening is that this only works if it's AC electricity.
Alternating current.
Alternating current. Okay. Notice that this only worked if it was moving. In other words, when I'm working with this, it doesn't care a thing about each other.
Right.
But when I have motion, something happens.
Right.
Because I knew you were coming, I again called a friend of mine who was a Navy doctor during the same time period we're talking about. Slightly after that, and he all of a sudden was healing a pilot, a person that had been a pilot. And he began to tell him a story, and he basically said, one day I was up in one of the faster airplanes that we had, and I had something that was a spherical object that was ahead of me. And I called back and I said, "Are there any friendlies over here?" He actually took off from a Texas location, headed off that way, and
Towards New Mexico.
And he said, they said, "Well, no, there's no friendlies here." He said, "Not only that, but he's accelerating away from me, and yet I have the fastest airplane that's been designed." And
Which at that time was...
And therefore it can't be one of us.
Well, that was...
And he said, well, they said, "Well, you have the weapon on board." It was a new design.
Oh.
And he said, "Go on ahead and shoot it down." And so he did.
He shot down the Roswell craft. Do you know who did it?
He said, don't give the people my name, nor give
you
them,
know this
nor
man?
give. No, you certainly.
He shot it down.
He's a very dear. The doc.
With what kind of a weapon?
The doctor is a very dear friend of mine.
What kind of a weapon?
I don't know. We have all kinds.
Because bullets were only 1,500 miles an hour back then.
We have all kinds of things out there. Then the individual said that he went and landed at a nearby airport, went over and walked into the craft. Evidently, one of them was out walking around because there were only 3 when he was in.
3 aliens at that time?
And he walked in, and they were all 4 feet and under. But he could see through the walls of the craft from the inside out.
Whoa.
And it kind of...
Translucent material.
And the material he was stepping on was spongy, he said.
So do you think we'll survive global warming? Do you
The
think
question is they're alive. The people that are alive will figure out how to escape this
I know what you're
place.
saying, yeah.
And actually, every nature wants to tell us how to escape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the additional 4 forces that we're working toward, there should be no problem.
Going to Andromeda.
Got it.
We can go to Andromeda with one of
Right.
the other forces, not the forces we know.
Exactly.
That's it.
And we will be able to travel faster than the velocity of light, of course.
Well, Paul
But
Dirac...
but see, Einstein simply said you cannot communicate beyond the velocity of light using photons.
But action at a distance proves that
But
there's
let's say
instantaneous
that, well, and if I had a blind Einstein, he said you couldn't travel faster than the
Right.
velocity of sound.
Right.
If a seeing blind Einstein says you can't travel faster than the velocity of light.
Right, I guess so.
But if thoughts
Right.
can travel faster,
Right.
then he would say
There's another
you
force.
can't travel faster than the velocity of thought.
That's incredible. Action at... You know about spooky action at a distance.
Yep.
And
Okay,
singularity.
Now that's you tied them all together. It worked in your mind.
Because Paul Dirac said in this...
Perfectly right.
When Paul Dirac saw the birth of electron and anti-electron, electron-positron pairs coming from super gammas, that he believed he found this substratum to the universe that was non-dual. It was pure negative. And I don't even know if it was really negative. It was just single. And he said, my God, if you could become one with that, you could be anywhere in the universe in 0 time because there's no resistance in that singularity because there's no polarity.
Well, there is another universe called the neutrino universe, of course.
Right. Neutrinos.
And we know that it's there. And now we're seeing if one of the additional forces matches it.
So the neutrino universe is another universe, not just...
Not only that, we know that we know that what we have is we're about 5%. Everything that we see is about 5%. And then there's dark matter that we don't see.
Right.
And then beyond that is about 70% of dark energy. And that's what we're talking about. The energies that we don't now have cataloged. And we don't have name, and we haven't done critical tests on them, and we're just barely beginning to start operating.